So let's load up a sawtooth wave. Go. Okay, so now we can see our little sawtooth. Okay, so you can see like this is our little spectrogram where we can see kind of the base frequency at the lowest peak on the left, and then like as you go over to the right, the higher frequencies there are. So you can kind of see these like peaks and valleys. There's a bunch of them, right? There's a lot of frequencies contained in this little sawtooth. Now let's load up a sine wave. There's one frequency. A sine wave is the purest sound that you can have. Like, it's just that frequency and nothing else. If you look at a square wave, you'll see more than a sine wave, but less than a sawtooth wave. So, but the reason that we care about what harmonic content is in our signal is because, like, immediately after that, we can filter it. So, a filter is basically just what it sounds like. It's a filter. You're taking all of the harmonics from the signal, and then you're filtering out some of them. So, it will be probably easier to illustrate this in Renoise because I can literally just add a filter on here. Like, let's, am I playing it through track 1? Yeah. So let's just add an analog filter. And Renoise has these little filters that are basically the same, in a sense, as what's in LSDj. So let's pick a 4-pole Moog. It doesn't really matter for our purposes. So this little icon is we've got low pass, band pass, and high pass. Okay, so I can show these. So again, like this little filter diagram is like basically what this is up here. You're looking at the high frequencies on the right, the low frequencies on the left. And then you can see cutoff. Hey, wait a second. Does that ring a bell? Oh yeah, because we have a cutoff over here. And then we have, yeah, I hope so. We have Q, which, from what I understand, this is more of like an electronics term, because electronics uses filter, like they filter signals too. We just are actually listening to ours. We're not like trying to do something electrical with it. So that is known in audio terms usually as resonance. So with cutoff, you can think of FF being all the way up. And with Q, you can think of resonance being all the way down. Inertia and drive don't matter for our purposes of LSDj. But so if you go, will this work? Oh yeah, okay, cool. I have a little keyboard over here. So if I move the cutoff down as I'm playing this note, like watch and listen to what happens. So like a low pass filter means that you let the low frequencies pass through the filter. So if you start at FF, you get all of the harmonics because you're letting everything all the way from 0 to FF through, which means you get the full sound of the sawtooth wave. And when you lower it, essentially you're almost like limiting it to like a sine wave, because you're cutting off everything above just this base frequency. And then, as you increase the filter, then you're getting kind of like a buzzier sound. It's like a richer, noisier sound. So that's what cutoff does. When you have a band pass filter, you're letting a specific band of frequencies pass through. So if you sweep it, from 0 up to FF, it's going to sound like this. And by the time you get to the top, you only have those higher harmonics and higher overtones coming through. You don't have the lowest part of the note. And then high pass, obviously, you're going to get the highest parts first, and you're going to, let the highest pass until you move this cutoff all the way down to the bottom. So that's what cutoff does in LSDj, and it works analogously to this. I would say like the same. There are some minor technical differences. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and from what I know with LSDJ about cutoff and that, like it helps to see the little, like where you can actually see what part of the wave gets through.
Yeah, so like, if you want some kind of bass or something that has like that wub, effect, you probably want to like start it. So like no, something lower. So, it already kind of starts to sound a little bit wubby, even just with nothing else but a plain old filter. So resonance, what the Q does is it adds a little emphasis right where the cutoff point is set. So if you don't have the cutoff really set anywhere, the resonance isn't going to do very much. But what it does is, you'll be able to see it on this, is it just adds a little peak right where the point of the cutoff is. So like the more resonance you have, the more emphasis you have on that part of the sound. So this can get annoying too, because when you have resonance go all the way up like that, the filter will just become its own synth. Basically, the resonance is so high that it just generates this tone, and you don't even hear the actual root note. So like, I'll show you here.
Oh yeah.
Now we don't really have that, like, we don't have a smooth filter in LSDj. You can kind of think of the cutoff just jumping between each of the different harmonics, like, but that's essentially what it is, and it's the same for this one. And also for this one, so. So yeah.
With the cutoff, does that affect specifically the range of whichever filter you're using? Like how many frequencies? So like if you're turning, because like you said, when you have it all the way up, like all the frequencies get through. So if you have like a low pass, I think you sort of covered this, but I just want to make sure, because like if you have your cutoff lower than FF, then that means like the higher frequencies are going to be cut out, right? And if you had a high pass, then it means those ones are being cut out from the lower end, right?
That's right. Yep.
And then there's all pass and band pass, and those are sort of complicated for me.
Yeah, so band pass means that like only the range of whatever Q is coming through. One of the things that might be useful to illustrate now is like what things happen at the different cutoffs. So like if I put this at 0, right, we're at a low pass and we have nothing coming through because that's the lowest it can go. So we get total silence, which is like what we should expect to. Then if we go up 1, well, not 1, but like for the first digit, we get the lowest sine wave. So this is our root note. It's a sine wave. Isn't that amazing? So let's listen to it. Not a perfect sine wave, but like we don't have the biggest resolution to get like a super smooth sine wave. Like it's kind of blocky. So it's going to sound somewhere in between a sine wave and a square wave. So then if we go to cutoff 20, now we're starting to see what it looks like over, where do I go? Over here. It looks like this, right? Because we have the first wave plus the second wave together. So now it's going to sound like whatever this one sounds like, which we can actually listen to it. Almost like an organ or something. Like Yeah, I tend to think of it like an organ. So this might sound like an organ. A little bit.
That's wild.
We can. Oops, I don't want to name it. I don't. Oh, well, name it Boop Zero. Boop.
Oh my god. As long as you name them.
Yes, I'm learning instrument naming conventions. It's going very well. So actually, we can make this a little more pronounced if we put some Q here. So like, if I were to go here, unmute this, and then like let's make this go away. And then, like, let's say I wanted to add more of this wave, so I'm gonna amplify it by not that much. I don't know, 3 dB. Is that too much? It might not be enough for me to illustrate it, but either way, let's see. Let's add these together. Oops. No. Oh no. I just want it to be center. Okay. This plus this. Mix them together. To new track. Oops. So now we have like more of the second wave, also more of the first wave because they're like basically aligned. So, but that will do the same thing if we add some Q here because our cutoff is set at 20. So now if we look here, whoa, we've got a really big second wave. And then we can listen to it again. So we can also just make this Q a little bit less, maybe.
Sounds so cute.
So, and then you can, go up to 30, and now we've got our third. And so like the more of these that you add, the more it's going to look like a sawtooth. So this, to me, is like, it's also really easy to illustrate it with the bandpass filter because you're only letting in this band. So like at 0, you have nothing. At one, you have this sine wave, which looks awesome. It looks like a very pure, good sine wave. We've got, now at 2, we've got just this sine wave. And you can see like the difference in volume between this one and this one is, half. Every time you go up to the next harmonic, like the volume gets lower and lower. So otherwise, I don't know, you'd end up with a pretty wild sound. And then 3, of course, 16 doesn't really divide by 3, so this kind of looks like this little wonky waveform. But let's listen to this one. You really get like that higher note, and you can also, let's see, we can also turn this up by adding more Q here, and that will increase the amplitude of it. So then we can come back down. That's not C3, that's like G5. So we've got this, we've got our signal, we've got our filters, low pass. All pass is a little bit different, but it's probably worth covering at this point because we've already talked about what the other filter stuff does. So basically, and I'm not sure why this is this way, but when you look at the waveform, it's like kind of inverted. Like you notice that the triangle actually starts in the middle rather than looking like, if I start from here and select all the way here and then like paste it here rather than looking like that, which isn't even a totally pure triangle, but it's pretty close. This is all kind of approximated. Yes. So it's essentially the same waveform. So it's going to sound like a triangle, or not a triangle, a sawtooth, because that's what our signal is. So if you had to guess, if a low pass lets the low frequencies pass through, and a band pass lets a certain band of frequencies pass through, and a high pass lets the high frequencies pass through, what do you think an all pass does?
Well, no, the high pass lets all the frequencies. Yeah, I said all pass, right? It lets them all through.
It does. It lets them all through. So here's the fun thing about All Pass. You can literally put the cutoff anywhere. It does not matter. This waveform will not change. You can put it at 0. You can put it at 40. It's the same darn thing. So there is no difference. So this is cool to me because the only thing that matters is the Q. So wherever you want to boost your frequencies, you can set it at 10 and give it a little boost in the Q. Now you've got that first overtone, that root note is boosted. We just boosted it. And then if you set it at 20, you're going to boost it an octave up. And if you set it at 30, let's take a listen to these too. So if you set a higher Q, like the higher your Q, the more effective I think it is, but it doesn't have to. Okay. This one I like a lot because like when you really boost the heck out of it, like this 3-0 is a fifth, so it's almost like playing a power chord on guitar or something. Like you can really get that. And like the thing to note about this for me is like this volume affects the whole signal, which basically means the more volume you have here, the more signal that you have from the root note. And then this Q is like boosting anywhere, any of these harmonics. So if you want all harmonic and no root note, like turn the volume way down. If you want to hear the root note a lot, it's like... So I like this a lot. Okay, so.
Okay, that's cool.